Body language, when we see something that makes us uncomfortable, like two women kissing or two men kissing, or when people see somebody who is trans that doesn't necessarily have, passing privilege, which means they don't look the part. And they'll give them dirty looks or shrug or look very uncomfortable. That's a form of language. You might as well call them a name because it has the same impact. And this just isn't towards LGBTQ+. I mean, this is people of different races, this is people of different body sizes, this is women, this is different minority groups in general. And all four of those languages apply to all of them. Now, the second way that we can create a shift, in my opinion, is through our environment. I want to ask you a question. How many of you think you're normal? No, be honest. Be honest. Whatever your definition of normal is, how many of you? How many of you want to be normal? At some point in your life, we probably all did. And because of that, we conform. We conform to our environments to fit in, right? Our work environment. We all dress a certain way. We have certain ways that we talk in our work culture. I'm presenting to you right now, I'm in a suit. We conform to our environments. I did an exercise, and in small groups I tend to do this, where I'll go around the room, and I did this hockey team was a brilliant example. I was working with a major junior hockey team, and I sat them down and I said, okay, you consider yourselves brothers and your family and all these things. I said, but you all dress the same, talk the same, walk the same, act the same. I said, but that's not who you are. I said, so I want you to share right now something you wouldn't typically tell a teammate that you like. Because we're embarrassed if it doesn't meet the conformity aspect, if it doesn't meet the norm. So I had the tough guy on the team stood up and said, I love writing poetry. You couldn't say that in the hockey locker room, you'd be known as the fag. I had another kid say, well, if I don't make it in hockey, I want to be a zoologist. The kid beside him said, really? I love animal documentaries. The coach says, I'm obsessed with Broadway plays. These are things you don't talk about in your environment because it's not normal. And we all want to be normal. I'm going to tell you something. It's something I've learned. It's something I now live by. And it's this most exciting thing I've come to realize. Normal doesn't exist. Normal is a fallacy. It's fake. It's an illusion. Look around this room. You all have different hair color, eye color, skin color. You all have different body shapes and sizes. You all have different reasons why you're here right now. You all have different jobs you do here. You've got different private lives. You have different thoughts going through your mind right now. Some of you are thinking, wow, this guy's really insightful. Some of you are thinking, wow, this guy's shut up. Normal doesn't exist. It's a fallacy. You're all a bunch of weirdos. And that's beautiful. If we learn to take that and adopt it and embrace our weirdness and stop conforming to the norms, we will become more inclusive to everyone. This doesn't just resonate with the LGBTQ plus community, this is people in general. We will be more open and diverse, and I hate the word accepting, but accepting of other people, tolerant of others and our differences, because we're all weirdos. So as soon as you embrace your weird, You're less judgmental towards other people's fears. You're less judgmental towards their differences. And ultimately, I believe that that will lead to a happier, healthier, more productive work environment, more productive home environment, more productive world. Thank you. I don't know if I went over time or not. I was looking for what? 10:45. Okay. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. We have time for questions around. Would anybody like to ask?
Hello.
Hi.
I don't have questions. I just want to say thank you very much. I am an aunt to Hockey Boys, and I understand how difficult the environment can be. And I find occasions like this to talk about these matters that affect them quite important because we love them, right? And so I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing. And can I get selfie later because I want to send this to them.
Of course.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions? Coffee one.
Hi, Ken, for some water for coffee. I have a question for you. First of all, thank you very much for sharing all of this. It was an eye-opener for me. Thanks. And question for you. You said at 23, you sat down with yourself and you decided you would figure out who you were. What did you do after? Did you go on a trip? Did you watch movies?
Truthfully, when I sat myself down, this was pre-dating app age, and this is something I don't share a lot, but I went on a dating website. Well, I was living in Europe, I was in my bedroom, and I said, you need to figure yourself out. And I checked my hometown. I was able to check, I was in Europe, but I could check anywhere in like any city. It was a website called Gaydar. And I went on there, and I saw a significant portion of closeted, middle-aged, married men. And I just went, and I knew who some of them were. And I knew they had children. And I wasn't judging them because they grew up in a different time than I did, and being gay, or they could have been open with their partner. I had no idea. I don't know any of their details of their lives, and it's none of my business. But I just thought to myself, that's going to be me. And I thought, if I don't figure this out, I'm likely to have a wife and children, and then that has potential to be me. And I'd be hurting a lot of people. So, for me, I grew up in a different time. I grew up in an age where it is okay to be gay and to live and be happy as your authentic self. So I decided at that point I was going to figure it. And that's when I moved back to Toronto in the summer, and I started dating my then partner.
Thank you. It takes a lot of courage for you to come out and talk to us, so thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
I was just curious to know, because you mentioned at the beginning your parents, the way you understood is that your parents were open about this.
Yes.
Is there anything you think that could have happened maybe for you to have mentioned it to them earlier, or?
Oh, I should have. In hindsight, looking back now, I mean, it's easy to look back, right, and say what you should have done. I wish I would have came out at 13 or 14. I am so envious of kids when I go speak at schools who come up to me and they're like 12 years old and I'm like, I'm gay. And I'm like, ugh. Damn you. Damn you. But no, I look at that and I was struggling so much on a daily basis. And it impacted my school, it impacted my hockey, it impacted my life. And if I would have come out to them, they would have been incredibly supportive. I could have, you know, worked, I would have had a loving environment and known that people were okay with it. I would have been able, if I was still struggling and couldn't deal with the duality, to work with some form of counseling or therapy, and that would have been provided to me. And I would have moved away from home at 15 or 16 years old like I had, and I would have had a network around that could have not necessarily protected me, because I don't think we should be sheltering people, but giving me the tools to love, to accept myself, because I am a big believer that only you can accept you. Nobody else can. To accept somebody, or to allow somebody to accept you, means they're above you, a moral equal. So I could have accepted myself and learned to love myself at a very young age. So in hindsight, I wish I had come out to them a lot younger, and I'm so envious of the kids today that do, because they're very fortunate that, you know, a lot of instances they have supportive families who are there for them and helping them, guiding them.
Sorry, I originally had another question to ask, but after discussing that, I was wondering,
You can ask
had you known earlier, come out earlier, do you think you would have continued playing hockey?
I'd be in the NHL right now.
Sorry?
I'd be in the NHL. No, I was ranked as a top 10 prospect, goaltending prospect for the draft. I put up phenomenal numbers. I was just always hurt. And suicidal and depressed, and had a season-ending injury over here from 15 to 27. I was ranked to be there. I've had GMs come up to me afterwards and say, "You really should have made the NHL." And kind of breaks my heart a little bit to hear that. But no, I would have had a long professional hockey career. So I think it would have helped me to pursue that. That said, I think things happen for a reason. Now, in hindsight, I don't believe that was my path. I believe that hockey gave me a platform. School gave me the communication skills. Working with athletes gave me the ability to understand youth and, you know, stay up to date with what's going on with pop culture and social media with young people. And now I can take all that and share it and stand up and create a shift. So I honestly believe that things happen for a reason, and this is my path. But yeah, in hindsight, I think if I had come out earlier, I'd be in the NHL right now.
Hi.
Hi.
So what's your path as you ever think of being an agent of players who
You know,
non-gay or woman or?
I've thought about becoming a player agent. I've had opportunities to do it. I love hockey. That side of the world isn't always pleasant. It's kind of, you know, there's no real contracts until I make the NHL, so it's a difficult world. But I think what I'm doing now, and being able to go to, like in the past 2 years, I've probably spoken to 150, 200,000 people. Yeah, and I get to go around to, you know, corporations and companies and have people come to me after and talk to me about what's going on in their lives. And then being a resource for them based off my experiences to either, you know, just be an ear or provide them with people who can support them, or, you know, being helpful in that way. I also get to go to schools. And I get to work with kids. I've spoken to kindergarten all the way through universities. And that's a full-time job in itself doing this. So it's my passion, it's my path, and I don't want anyone to feel the way I felt. So going around to teams and speaking to them, going around to the schools and speaking at the schools and whatnot, gives me the opportunity to give back not only in the game, but to youth, all youth who are struggling in some form. Pardon me?
You have a greater impact and more freedom.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, and I can do it my way, I can do it how I want, and it's a lot of fun. So, and it's so rewarding. And even when kids are struggling, it's rewarding. I had a kid come up to me, I spoke at a provincial championship for hockey, midget provincial championship I keynoted a couple of years ago. And the coach came up to me afterwards and he said, I think one of my players might be gay. And I said, well, if he talks to you about it or whatever, then feel free to reach out. And I said, we can't go ask him. Sure enough, that kid messaged me that randomly on Instagram. And turns out he was gay and struggling. He was having a very difficult time. And he went from being like a 95 student, all of a sudden he would just write his name on tests and just sit there frozen. His hockey had derailed completely, he was very depressed, he was suicidal, he was cutting himself. And he was from a small community. So he asked if we could talk, and I said, well, you're 15, so you have to get your parents' consent before I start, talking to a 15-year-old on the phone or anything, so yes. So I actually had a 2-hour phone conversation the next day with his parents. And then I traveled to their community about a week later and sat down with the father and had lunch. And we worked, and they were, they didn't have a lot of exposure to the LGBTQ plus community, and his father was convinced he was straight, and I said, well, listen, so it doesn't matter whether you're straight or not, your kid's struggling, and if you love your kid, we need to get him the resources he needs. I said I was a womanizer. Okay. And he went, all right. So we ultimately helped the kid. I found him a therapist, we got parents on board, and now he's doing exceptionally better. His school, he's graduating high school, and things are going really well for him. And I look at that and say, if I was an agent, I wouldn't be able to do that. If I was, a hockey coach, I wouldn't be able to do that. This is my path, and this is, what I need to do.
Thank you.
I just had a question. You have mentioned that you were blackballed by the Hockey Association. Do you see things changing within the system, within the sporting association?
No. No, I think hockey, from everyone I've spoken to, whether it's reporters or people within the sport, seems to be the most homophobic and sexist. In terms of language, at least, I think some other sports have more violent cultures towards women than hockey. But I think there's some issues in hockey in the sense that it's predominantly, and there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, I am, and most of the people in my life are, but it's predominantly Caucasian. It's basically white straight men. There's nothing wrong with white straight men. But because there isn't a lot of diversity within the sport, there doesn't seem to be, there's the ability for a few to get away with a lot. So how they act, how they treat others is just accepted because we've conformed to this norm. And also, hockey is very much a sport where people stay in the sport because it is a bubble. So when players retire, like I did, I got into coaching, mentoring, training hockey players. So they stay in it. So coaches are typically ex-players. So hockey hockey players have hockey babies, and you know, then they stay in as coaches, managers, different things, and the cycle just perpetuates, the language continues, and it just doesn't shift. So it's a lot of days working in the hockey world, trying to create a shift there. I feel like I'm banging my head against that wall. But it's slow, but it's kind of happening. I think, I hope. It's like, you know, last year I had the Toronto Maple Leafs agree to go into a minor hockey association with me. But then it's taken a year and the hockey association hasn't agreed. I have the Toronto Maple Leafs and the hockey association says no. You think it would be the opposite, right? But again, that's where I think the cycle has to shift, is with those minor league, like the minor hockey teams and coaches and whatnot, because we're creating an environment at a young age that just, you know, continues and then recycles time and time again. But I think we're a long way away from creating a totally inclusive environment. And I think that, you know, when you think about it, there's over 10,000 professional hockey players from major, junior, and above annually. I'm the only one in the history of the sport to ever come out.
There's surely more.
Well, yeah, I mean, old studies used to say 10% of the population's gay. Now they're saying it's closer to 22, 23%. And I'm the only one in the history of the sport.
There's still fear that exists within.
Completely, absolutely. For the players to come out, for management to come out, for coaches to come out, people are afraid for their jobs. People are afraid that they'll be blackballed and alienated, and that's kind of my goal, is to kick it down and create that shift and humanize the issues so that people can, and that when they do, they won't receive any backlash or criticism. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Probably one thing that struck me is the fact that you said you were depressed, suicidal, alcoholic for a very long time. So I wonder how you pulled up from that. Is it just by accepting yourself, or just seeking help?
I was fortunate in the fact that, in terms of alcohol use, I was never addicted to alcohol. It was just an agent I used to numb. You know, some people will use drugs, different things to numb. Some people use food or cigarettes or shopping addiction, like different things. But I never craved it. So that was easy for me to stop or to control and just drink socially, like most of society. It's taken me, in terms of depression, I've had anxiety disorder since I was 7. In terms of depression and whatnot, a lot of therapy, a lot of hard work. I had to learn to put myself first and to get myself into a good, happy, positive place. And I still work at it. I mean, when I started doing this and people were coming to me with their struggle from everywhere, I got very depressed. Because there was no manual or guidebook to do what I do now. There was nobody there, like, oh, hey, this one you're doing this. I don't know anyone else who'd done it. So it took a while. It took a lot of years of therapy and hard work. But I'm at a place now where I really love myself. And it's funny, I say in interviews, and my mother always says, why do you say that? I don't understand why you say that. I always say, I love being a gay man. Instead of saying, I love who I am, or something like that, I say, I love being a gay man, because first of all, I do. And secondly, there are kids out there that have never heard that. They've never heard that. They've never heard anyone say that they love being gay. So, to create that shift, so I had to learn to love myself. I had to accept who I was, work through that, and then learn to love myself. I'm a gay man, I love being a gay man.
Hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to say thank you, Messi, for being here today.
Oh, thank you.
And I understand that you're doing speaking engagement at more, I mean by this, if it's more positive, negative, challenging? Can you just talk about this?
It's funny, you can see the culture as soon as you walk into a room. I spoke recently at a car company, and not one person asked a question, nobody had a hand up, and I was like, oh, this is going to, like, I told some jokes, nobody laughed, and I was like, oh my god, this is going to be the longest hour of my life. But that, again, that's a very hyper-masculine environment. It is very, like, everyone sat there stoic and strong. And same with, so that's their culture. And as soon as I recognized and said, and I'll analyze what I do, and say, okay, today was I a little slow in my delivery or different things, but I can tell the culture. If I was like, no, I thought I hit it pretty good that day, like, but so you can see the culture here. Everyone was engaged. I asked them who thinks they're normal there. Nobody. Who wants it? Nobody put a hand up. Nobody did a thing. Sports teams. I can tell if the team has good leadership from the coach and captains when I walk in. How they engage with me as soon as I come in, how they interact with me throughout. So it comes from that environment and people who have laid the groundwork for shifts to happen. So there's some that are a little more challenging. It's sometimes difficult. I've spoken to kindergarten classes, and that's been unique. You know, what's that?
Filter.
No, and then I'll say words and they'll look at the principal like, you just said that word. And it's super cute, but I think one of the most challenging things is my partner sometimes will join me. I believe you spoke to Matthew. And he, Matthew's gorgeous. And he'll come to schools, and the first time, when I go to school, so kids will raise their hand and be like, do you have a boyfriend? And I'll be like, yeah, he's right there. And the first time he just like sheepishly waved. Then afterwards, kids will come up and talk to me or engage with me, and the teachers will, or pictures one up. I was talking to a teacher and I looked over and there was a huge line. I was like, oh wow, this is cool. It was great. So the next time he came to school with me, he told me afterwards, he goes, Rock, I'm Princess Diana, like I'm people's princess. So the next time he came to a school, the kid asked me a question and Matt was sitting there on the side and he started waving like this. Sure enough, long line, everyone's there for Matt, and I was just like, oh, that's great. So that's a challenge, keeping my ego in check. But no, it's typically the environment and the culture, and you can see it right away. Like I can tell that this workplace is somewhere that people like me. That said, there's probably people who are conforming that don't want to conform. I was at another major corporation recently, and I had people come to me after I was sitting there, there's supposed to be this very inclusive place, and I had people come up to me after who aren't open at work and struggling. I had people who weren't even LGBTQ, but just had other things that they weren't open and afraid to share with their coworkers. And so that's always interesting and a bit of a challenge to try and navigate that, and you know what you should share, what you shouldn't share, and how, where your comfort levels lie, and what might get you in trouble and what might not. But yeah, you can definitely tell it's the environment, and if you have a good environment, it's visible pretty quickly.
Hello? I have one question as well before we close.
Sure.